So recapping the NCAA men's Final Four. So Houston versus Florida live update. So the Cougars faced the Gators in the NCAA men's national championship after two big comeback victories. The Cougars and the Gators square for the national title Monday. We're now down to two after major comebacks victory Saturday. The Houston Cougars and the Florida Gators will face off Monday night in San Antonio for the national championship. Will longtime Houston coach Kelvin Sampson finally take home the trophy, or will rising star Todd Golden prevent that? All goes down at 8:50 p.m. Eastern Standard Time Monday on CBS. Without a doubt, it was the Houston. It was Houston's for two reasons. Though Houston's defense was ranked as the best in the country this season, the field goal percentage allowed and total points allowed, Duke historically efficient offense prevented its most difficult challenge. Not only did the Blue Devils bog down offensively in the second half, but they went more than 7 minutes without a field goal in an absurd drought, even given Duke's talent. Perhaps an even harder challenge for Houston. However, it was finding enough offense to complete the comeback. Scoring was never come easy for Kelvin Sampson's teams in recent seasons, though this year's team has been much more dangerous, and then it still doesn't often produce points in bunches. Emmanuel Sharp won't have to pay for a meal for the rest of his life around Houston's campus with the way he shot the ball in the final minutes. Kelvin Sampson is looking to capture his 800 win in his first national championship. Andy Katz and Houston Cougars coach Kelvin Sampson discussed the national championship matchup. So that if you watch it on Twitter, he talks about that with Kelvin Sampson. So Houston's defense led the nation in season by averaging 58 points allowed. Only 4 teams was able to score more than 70 points. That's an important threshold. However, because the Cougars are 33-0 when they allow 69 points or fewer, but 2-4 when they allow 70 plus. Why does that number matter? Largely, it's a function of Houston's offense not matching up well in the shootout. The Cougars actually shot the ball well, making 39.9% of their three-pointers, but on average, they're scoring about 12 fewer points per game. And in Florida, the Gators will have to run to score quickly, while Houston prefers to play methodically. With a win tonight, Houston's Kelvin Sampson, 69, will have become the oldest coach to win an NCAA men's basketball championship. Jim Calhoun was 68 when Connecticut won in 2011. And when you're pushing 70, you look at things a lot differently. Sampson told reporters Wednesday, last night, I got so many exits and I haven't returned any. And there are too many, but I saw Tubby Smith and Rick Barnes and Tom Izzo and Greg Popovich and a bunch of older coaches, and they're all kind of similar to the message to me. And win one for the old guys or something like that. No matter the result tonight, the matchup with two number 1 seeds guarantees a 26-time NCAA tournament expanded in 1985. The NCAA championship will be a number 1 seed of the last 18 championships, including tonight's. 14 would have been the top seeds. And while Houston and Florida are playing each other for the first time in the tournament, it's only the third meeting all time. The last was in 1973. This was more than a decade before Florida coach Todd Golden, 39, was even born. So my thoughts about Houston and Florida's game tonight for the national championship. Well, it's going to come down to Houston's defense in the second half. Will it be able to withstand and withhold Florida, as they're going to throw a lot of punches, from Will Clayton Jr., Blake Condon, and everything. So who will be the one that's going to be standing in the way? For me, and that's why I was getting ready to pick Mr. JC, I was going to say I got Florida winning tonight as well. You had them winning 73-66. I have a similar score. I got Florida winning by the score of 74-67. Yeah, no, 74-68. Excuse me. I got it winning 74-68. I just think the guard play for Florida is going to be a bit too much tonight. I think the guard play is going to be a bit too much for Houston to handle tonight. I think it's going to be a little bit more coming down to just Clayton and just his ability to stretch the floor and get inside the paint. And I don't think Houston's gonna be able to handle that. I really don't even think Houston's gonna handle the guard play from also Richard. Oh, and Condon as well. The big man for Florida also is gonna be a problem. It was just like it was a problem for Auburn, and just like it was a problem for UConn in the second half. UConn just couldn't be able to handle what Florida was giving to them. And all tournament, they've been absolutely sensational. And for me, I think Houston's defense, even though they haven't allowed more than 70 points per game, and they're 33-0 when they're allowed under 70 points or less. But somehow, some way, I just think that something's got to give, and I just think their offense is going to be a bit too much for them. And just like all tournament long, Florida likes to run the pace. They like to run the pace, and play more of a loose base kind of game. Finish in transition, and really just attack in and outside the perimeter. And they like to really get their guards and let them just do ISO and get 1-on-1, and let them be on the island. So I think that's gonna be a bit of a problem for them tonight. But now the one way I can see Houston possibly pulling it off is Houston has to get them into a half-court game. The Cougars got to get them into a half-court game. And then get them into a half-court game, then I think that's going to be something that's going to bode well for them. But I don't know if that's going to happen. I think it's going to be very loose. It's going to be very high octane, very high scoring. I think it's going to get very, very rowdy. The crowd is going to be playing a whole huge factor because, them Gators, Florida, they love to travel. So that especially they love to travel. So I got Florida winning this game by 8 points. And so that's just what I see. And who you have, and who everybody else is watching, who you guys have winning tonight? Do you have Florida or Houston winning the national championship game? And tell me why, and tell me your final score. But as me and JC have been saying, we got Florida tonight. So that's just how I see it. And it's been a kind of a crazy March Madness. It's been kind of going back and forth. We'll see. It's been pretty much a back and forth seesaw, at first in the first round, but then mostly the number one seeds have been kind of rolling through and strolling through. My thoughts about what happened with Duke and Houston after Duke blowing that first half lead. They did not score a bucket in 7 minutes, and while Houston was scoring 25 straight points in that second half, and I was just kind of just dumbfounded. And then I was also dumbfounded out of the way Cooper Flag and the rest of it, and Capel and Capel, and the way that offense was playing for Duke, man, they completely was stagnant. Their offense was very, very stagnant, and it was very poor execution down the stretch, bad and dumb turnovers down the stretch for them. That's what really did them in. And to me, they just completely choked down the stretch. So you kind of seen that going a mile away, man. So a lot of people wasn't picking Duke to probably win it anyways. Unless if you're on the other side of the bracket, the west side of the bracket, you probably had them going all the way and possibly winning. But for the most part, I think at least 1 out of 15 or 1 out of 5 odds, I think most likely people was probably picking Florida to get all the way and win it. But yeah, those are my thoughts about that. Also, another story that I wanted to talk about was the whole Elon Musk and the the tariffs. He says he wants zero tariff situation in a free trade zone for Europe in the midst Trump's trade war. In extreme remarks at an event hosted by Italy's right-wing deputy prime minister, Musk said the Europe and the U.S. should move into a zero tariff situation. And Republicans, Democrats band together against Trump's tariff policy. Tech mogul Elon Musk and a close advisor to President Donald Trump on Saturday broke with Trump's decision to impose expansive tariffs on most foreign countries, saying that to see a zero tariff situation between the United States and Europe. And I hope it is agreed that both Europe and the United States should move, ideally, in my view, to a zero tariff situation, effectively creating a free trade zone between Europe and North America. Musk told the lead Congress, even hosted Saturday by right-wing Italian Deputy Prime Minister Matteo Salvini. And that's what I hope occurs, and more freedom to people between Europe and North America. If they wish to work in Europe or wish to work in America, they should be allowed to do so, in my view. So it has certainly been my advice to the president. Musk added. Trump announced tariffs this week on some of the country's largest trading partners. The United States is set to impose a 20% tariff on the European Union under his plan. Markets plunged Thursday, the day after Trump's announcement, as the S&P 500 index nearly 5%. The Dow Jones Industrial Average dropped 4%, and the Nasdaq plummeted 6%, while with all three posting some of the largest declines since the start of the COVID pandemic in 2020. And as the White House event announcing the tariffs Wednesday, Trump said the United States has been looted, pillaged, raped, and plundered by the other countries' trading policies, and called the next era in the United States the golden age of America. After 2 days of the stock market's falling, Trump was steadfast Saturday on Truth Social in his rationale for having imposed the widespread tariffs rather than China and many other nations have treated us unsubstantially badly. We have been the dumb and the helpless whipping posts, and this is an economic revolution. And we will win, hang tough, and it won't be easy, and the end result will be historic. We will make America great again, he added. So far, the European leaders have threatened to respond to the tariffs, with the president of the European Commission, Ursula von der Leyen, writing on X that Europe is prepared to respond. We'll always protect our interests and values. We're also ready to engage and to go from confrontation to negotiation. The European Union, as well as other countries targeted by terrorists, has threatened to impose countermeasures later this month. Trump has long railed against free trade, which Musk expressed support for Saturday. The White House and Musk did not immediately respond to the request for the comment. So my thoughts are, you guys you want a zero tariff situation in a free trade zone, but you guys are steadily going against everything that you guys have stated in these articles, in these interviews. You guys are eventually going against everything you guys have stated that you want. No, you want a free trade zone, no tariff situation, and everything, but you're steadily putting tariffs on like byproducts, as we already are speaking. So you guys are already going against what you have stated and previously, in the past. So I just don't understand what is the long withstanding of expansive in tariffs in other foreign countries that we don't have, and we already have an allies for, but we don't need their overall, we don't need their energy, or we don't need their resources. So why do we need any kind of tariffs around in these places? And then you shouldn't have to create a free trade zone. You shouldn't even just have to do that. You should already have that in planning it, from the get-go. And to me, I just feel as if I just really think this is a bipartisan of just having to create more chaos and drama. But that's kind of like where I stand on that part as well. So that's kind of pretty much where I stand. It's only going to create more and more chaos and more drama as it goes by. And then also I wanted to mention too, by the whole S&P 500 index falling 5%, and Nasdaq falling plummeting 6%, and Dow Jones dropping 4%. These things are falling as we kind of speak, as we already had spoke. This is kind of the largest decline. It just goes to show you that other countries have been falling and plummeting, pillaged and plundering, because of the insufficiencies and inefficiencies and ineffectiveness by these overall politicians, by Trump and Elon Musk, are both, front and center in these meetings around, at inside of the White House. It just goes to show you that it just makes it all kind of just an absolute sloppily chaotic mess. But yeah, those are just my thoughts about what's going on with this. Tell me what you guys think. And as I'm gonna leave and get on out of here, because I'm gonna end up doing another stream probably later on tonight, as I will probably talk about another Just My Thoughts series, volume series. So I will be continuing to talk about, artists and everything, so bands and everything. So stay tuned for that. Got something creative for you guys. But again, thanks for watching, as I will get on out of here.